Welcome back into the show. This segment brought to you by the Topoco Lodge. On Friday, they reopen for 7-day-a-week business. The winter break is over. That means both the Lodge and the Topoco Tavern, with plenty of outdoor dining, outdoor decks, and bars. There's really nothing like it in the area. Well, their doors are wide open, coming this Friday, March 12th, and they will be open 7 days a week through there. The Topoco Lodge. It is a great place to go, especially when it's warm and pretty out. Topoco.com to learn more. All right, let's welcome in the next two members of today's panel as we switch over to football. We got Josh Ward from WNML AM and FM right here. Thank you.
Thanks, Sean.
And next to you, the Athletics, David Ubben. And David, I'm going to be plugging the Athletic all day for some reason. So congratulations on the free plugs. I look forward to your next athletic story, including the Sports Source.
Indeed.
Let's talk about the staff that Josh Heupel has finally put together. It is complete at this point with the hire of Mike Ekeler, who will be special teams coordinator and work with the outside linebackers. You see the breakdown there. Josh Heupel, of course, head coach and play caller, and then on down the line, the offensive guys, then the defensive guys. And while we put it up there, I am also going to mention that spring practice, UT announced this week, starts on March 23rd. Orange and white game will be April 24th. So now that that's up there, I'll let you guys react. You can go anywhere you want. What are your thoughts on Josh Heupel's first staff?
Well, I mean, it's continuity and sort of smooth edges, I suppose, right? A lot of carryover from UCF. I think that will help, even if those guys don't have these crazy resumes. They're not going to be talking about how many national championships they've won with the previous staff.
Didn't help them much.
It didn't. Defensively, kind of the same deal, but you have people that believe philosophically in what you're trying to do. Tim Banks, same type of thing, aggressive. You're going to give up some bombs. You just are. That's what this thing is going to be. But they're going to be aggressive, negative plays and turnovers, and he believes in that. He's had some success doing that. And kind of the same thing with staffers. And so we'll see.
Josh, general reaction to the staff. What stands out to you?
Yeah, like Josh Heupel being hired, I would say with his staff that he's bringing in, wait and see approach. But you need opinions now, thoughts now, what they could be. On the offensive side, what I like, the benefit of the doubt that I would give is that they do have that continuity for what you trust is going to happen, and that offense is going to be better for Tennessee. How could it be worse? That's a common reaction. But quarterback play and offensive production just has to be better than what it's been the last couple of years. The defensive side, I think, is where you see that experience at this level, the SEC level. Now, Tim Banks being the defense coordinator in that role, not quite as experienced. So let's see what he can do with the challenge that he's taking. But from a recruiting standpoint, that's also a big question. We've talked over the last, month or so. Kind of takes care of itself. I think it will. It might take a little bit longer with this staff recruiting for Tennessee.
Vincenzo Ferrara.
Yeah, and I'll start like Josh did, and like Josh Heupel, but I'll say like Josh Heupel, under the circumstances, I think they did pretty well, because you have the continuity that David mentioned on offense with those UCF guys, plus Cody Burns that was headed there, who I really like also. And then you have more of the mix of the Power 5 experience guys that are more known for the coaching as opposed to just strictly recruiters. And that aggressiveness, David mentioned the aggressiveness, they all seem to be on the same page. We're going to get a chance to talk to those defensive coaches tomorrow, I believe, in a Zoom. We talked to the offensive coaches, and they were really impressive, and they seem to be on the same page in talking about adjusting to their personnel, and something that I guess everybody says, but it came across as very sincere. And then also, obviously, believing that their head coach is a genius, which certainly, if anything close to that is the case, then I think he will have the right guys in place. So you got to give him the benefit of the doubt right now, I think.
Yeah, I think the previous staff, you had a bunch of big paddles, but it didn't seem like everybody was running in the same direction. Right. Now, everybody's rowing in the same direction. How big are your paddles? I mean, we'll find out. You can build them up at Tennessee. It's a good place to do it if you're going to do it.
Let's look on the other side of things. Jim Chaney took a job as an analyst with the New Orleans Saints, so your buyout to him will only be monstrous. It won't be huge. It'll just be monstrous. So that'll help the buyout a little bit, because he's not going to get paid a ton by the Saints to be an analyst. A.J. Artis took over the strength program at USF, so that was kind of a natural transition. I'm going to make any kind of buyout move there. Ekeler's hire meant that Kevin Steele would be fired, something we've known forever. He's just been sitting back collecting a check and not showing up for work the last few weeks. He'll be owed as much as $860,000 by Tennessee if he doesn't find another job, all for just a few weeks on the Tennessee payroll. UT is paying him part of what Auburn owes him. And if somebody else hires him, they'll be paying him part of what UT owes him. Kevin Steele is going to be making millions of dollars the next couple of years from 2 schools, maybe 3. Or 3 teams.
It's like a buyout inception.
It's buyout inception. That's a good way to put it. Now, it's still possible that Tennessee could still wind up paying T. Martin because there's still talk going on there because Philip Fulmer, the AD, promised an assistant coach that we're going to give you an extension and a raise. Okay. Don't see that happen in many places, but at Tennessee, you did. Here's where I want to go with this because I find it amusing. There's a push now that I'm seeing, and I'm guessing it's the staunchest of Fulmer backers. All these buyouts and all these contracts, and all these bad hires, they weren't Philip Fulmer's fault. They were Donde Plowman's fault. Donde Plowman is now getting hammered by some of the fan base for the mess that Tennessee's in. Your thoughts on that? I personally look at it and can't imagine. I know how the fans would react if they thought a chancellor was running the program over the AD. So I think it's interesting now that the AD hired these people, made these decisions, handed out these contracts, walking away with money, and the blame goes to the chancellor. But your thoughts? Should Donde Plowman, if you're playing the blame game, does it go to Fulmer or Plowman?
Well, I mean, if Plowman is involved in the investigation, like obviously she was one of the few people that was really knowing what was going on.
Had to be.
You know, the Steele thing is probably fair that she deserves some of that blame because it was a little risky. But the other decisions, I mean, the flip side of that is what happens if she says no to an assistant coaching hire? The fans are going to be like storming the school administration building. Yeah. So you've got to pass down what guys are supposed to do. You're supposed to delegate, and her job is to let the athletic director do what the athletic director does. Maybe there's a little bit of blame. In some of these situations, I think the Steele one is the one where she probably shares the most. But in general, the general state of buyouts, no, I don't buy that at all.
Yeah, I think the responsibility is shared. The majority over the last 3 years to where we are now would come back to Philip Fulmer because he was hired by a previous chancellor, by the way, not Donde Plowman, to fix Tennessee football. And look at the conversation we're having now. But Philip Fulmer was given an extension last spring, quietly, by the way. By whom? That was Donde Plowman. And now Philip Fulmer is a part of the buyout money. So Philip Fulmer, I don't think, can be responsible for his own contract that he was given. That comes back to the person who's in charge running the program. And then with Kevin Steele, you're 5-6 days away from hitting the blow-up button on the program and allow a contract that's going to pay close to $1 million to somebody to not work for you. So I think that's shared. It's Philip Fulmer bringing him in, but Donde Plowman allowing it right before she's about to blow it up.
The problem is you're going to have somebody in his interim, though, and I don't think they were going to give it to anybody on the staff because you didn't know where the investigation was going to go. So that's a little different.
In theory, but T was pretty clear of that stuff, and he was the associate head coach, and so it's. I mean, you don't pay somebody $800 to be the interim. That's
well, they certainly didn't keep T.
yeah.
I'm not so sure they didn't say we're cleaning house just to be done with this.
Probably.
I mean,
the opposite. You could have made Philip Fulmer the interim if you wanted to.
Yeah. Vince.
That's interesting. Obviously, I think it is shared because I think the Kevin Steele situation is an indicator that she's going off of recommendations, Donde Plowman. And Donde Plowman wasn't the one that said, "Hey, you know what? We should give T. Martin his 2-year deal right now and verbally agree to it." So,
exactly.
Obviously, there's still some responsibility, like the Fulmer extension during a pandemic. So it's just situational.
Yeah, if you want to talk about the extension to Fulmer, good. But in terms of, I can't imagine Philip Fulmer going in and saying, "Hey, I'm going to give this assistant this much money." It's just, no, knock $100,000 off that. I don't think most chancellors are walking around telling their athletic director, "Now go hire this guy, and I don't want to pay him that. I'll pay him this." I don't see it, just as you don't see most athletic directors going around their coach to give an assistant coach an extension and a raise. You don't see many chancellors that cut around the athletic director. So shared blame, that's an easy way out. I say it's 75-25 at worst. 80-20. 90-10. I'm going to keep going. All right. When we come back, let's talk about returning production on the Tennessee football team. And by the way, once the UT basketball game gets going, for those of you who want to stick with us, we'll keep you updated with the score and that kind of stuff. But when we come back, let's talk a little bit more football, what Josh Heupel has returning to his roster. Come on back.